How's it going, folks? Stu here. I'm a keen believer that, you gotta sift through some shit to appreciate the good stuff in life, right? You can't just be watching bangers after banger. You'd, A, probably get a little bit bored. Maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. But B, if you can't compare things against lesser things, how are you even sure that those good things are good things? That's a line of thinking I usually reserve for kind of so bad it's good films, films that you go out of your way to watch that you know are going to be bad. But sometimes films come along which seem just teed up for success, right? And you're not braced for a bad time. Sometimes that film has people in it you love and you expect to be great. Sometimes, and this one hurts, we just have to accept that Paul Mescal is in a stinker. I saw Phury, the new Garth Davis film, at the London Film Festival this year, and, well, it's certainly a film. So, Phury, it is a sci-fi romantic drama set in the distant future in which Earth it's gone to shit, I'm sure I don't need to explain. That's generally the premise of most distant future films at this point. Earth ain't fun, it ain't inhabitable, right? And on this new future Earth, people are being sent up to the moon, if I remember correctly. But honestly, you could insert any number of premises in a sci-fi future and it'd be fine. When people are sent up to sort of, I suppose, scout out, be the first guys in this new colony, they are left behind with an AI replacement, which is there to sort of smooth things over with the people that are left behind. We'll get into that concept being not a great concept in a bit. Just run with it for now. We meet a couple played by Paul Mescal and Saoirse Ronan who are on Earth in the future. And you guessed it, one of them is being plucked to go up. And this is not a good film. I feel like I could just end the review there. We're going to have to go on, but this was not good. What on earth happened here? It's not a wholly terrible film, so to speak. There are elements to this thing which should have amounted to a better time overall, I think. It's well shot, and I think the way that the sci-fi concepts and this future world are delivered visually don't really have many problems there. And although the film that they're in isn't good overall, I have to say, Paul Mescal and Saoirse Ronan are giving it their best. They are not bad in the film. And it's absolutely a case of a screenplay and the lines that this actor's being asked to say not lining up with the quality of the performance he's trying to give. It's a frustrating vibe in a film to get, never fun. Never wanted it from a Paul Mescal performance, but here we are. And that is, I think, this film's biggest weakness. It is a film that crumbles almost entirely because of its screenplay. Everything in this film's screenplay is at odds with itself. It's like every time it starts to vaguely get somewhere vaguely interesting, it decides to eat its own tail and then eat its own body and then it's eat itself until we've got nothing but two sad people moping around in a sci-fi world, and I just don't give a shit. It's a weird film as well because right from the opening title, it's one of those sci-fi films which opens with some text which gives us a bit of exposition. Fine, I'll take it. As soon as that exposition pops up and as soon as the world of the film sets itself up, it becomes immediately apparent what this film is going to do, and you are basically just spending about an hour and a half waiting for that stuff to happen. Shock, it happens, and then you spend about half an hour wondering how they thought this was working. It's a sort of film which has twists towards the end that are supposed to recontextualize things in a way which feels satisfying and works and makes everything feel worthwhile. And I've no doubt there are going to be some people watching the film that get that from it, and I'm very jealous of those people. Please, can I have what you're having? But for me, it pushes things a little bit too far on the other way. So when those things come around that are supposed to recontextualize the film, you end up looking back on the film and wondering why any of that was in there other than just to act as a big reveal in the end. There's nothing more frustrating in films like this than feeling like it's been written backwards, and I'm sorry to say, this screenplay screams that. And one of the big problems with, I think, writing films from the twist backwards, or I suppose the concept outwards, is that you get a little bit tangled in characters' motivations and what characters should believably be doing at certain situations to sell things. Characters seem to just act in very peculiar ways and say things that never felt right or authentic for that moment. And because there's so many moments of who thought this was something someone would say in the film, that really gets in the way of the romance between Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal. I think it's a film which feels like it's riding a lot more on chemistry between the two than it actually has. But ultimately, all that ended up happening between the main bulk of this film, where we should be really growing attached to these characters, is that scenes end up just feeling like they're thrown in there to try and convince us to like these characters. So many scenes between them just feel like tick boxes on a list of things that the film needs to get through in order to deliver us its end act. And that's not a fun way of watching a relationship unfold on screen. I didn't really ever believe that these characters gave a shit about each other. I don't give a shit if Paul Mescal and Saoirse Ronan are running around a barren wasteland naked, lying on the floor, talking to each other about how the stars look crazy from this perspective. I also feel like the ending doesn't know how to end, or rather, the ending wants to keep explaining things it did before, so it just keeps going. There are sort of reveals on reveals on reveals in this film that make you go, hang on, so why were we even doing this anyway? And that's incredibly difficult to talk about without spoiling things, because I think they are so tied to the reveals of the film. So you know what, let's do a brief spoilery section. I'm gonna put a time code here. Skip to this time code if you wanna fully avoid spoilers for the end of this film, because there's no way of doing this without talking about it. 3, 2, 1, we're in spoiler territory. Right, the end of this film, it is revealed that we've been watching Paul Mescal's actual AI version instead of actual him. And then he returns, and here's number one of the weird thing that doesn't really make much sense. Firstly, he returns by just saying, I missed you. That was the least believable. You've literally just come back from being off planet to your wife that you're supposed to have loved, and you're just like, what's up? How's it going? Weird. But they then have this like frustrating almost 20 minutes, it feels like, where Saoirse Ronan character is weird because she was in love with the other one and not him, so she's acting strange, even though the film set up the fact that it's a literal one-to-one replacement of him. Like, what on earth? They then have an argument in which he accuses her of cheating on him with the AI replacement, which opens up what on earth? Firstly, my dude, you agreed to this, I'm assuming, and you knew that it would be a replacement to comfort your wife when you were gone. Secondly, it doesn't seem like you were gone for that long, or, you know, maybe you might have said a bit more than just, I missed you when you returned. Thirdly, it's you. You've seen it be literally you, to the point where obviously us as a viewer were fooled into thinking it was you for the whole runtime. Wouldn't you just be like, oh, it makes entire sense why you fell in love with this thing, because it's me? You haven't just cheated on me with me. Am I making any sense? This is weird. And they have this argument, and it's weird. And I know why it exists. It exists to try and pry out that, ooh, isn't this a crazy concept, you know? If someone fell in love with another version of you, are they really in love with you or whatever? But my God, you cannot put that into that conversation. It's a quick conversation in the film that explains certain actions, I suppose, for the next 20 minutes in the film, but you're going to need to do a little bit more heavy lifting from a screenplay to make that work and to sell that, because as it stands in the film, it just felt very bizarre. But then the film sort of does another kind of reveal, or I suppose twist, less of a twist, but another reveal anyway at the end, in which it is revealed that she has gone off and has left a replacement version of her for him. And at that point, it just feels incredibly pointless to have done any of this, because why would you agree to go and leave the replacement? The answer the film gives is because if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have the whole AI concept, would you? You'd just have to watch a film of Saoirse Ronan being sad for a bit. But also, she then goes away anyway. We've never watched the two of them together. The only time we're ever watching the two of these characters together is for about 5 actual minutes in the film, towards the end. See what I'm saying about the concept only existing to justify the twists, eh? But it's that thing where you set up the very clear-cut concept at the beginning, and you say that characters don't want to be doing this thing, they want to be here. One of them is pulled, against their will, I suppose, to go and do this thing. Yeah, cool, fine. As soon as you start to then say, like, no, characters do want to do this and do this and this and this towards the end of the film, you lose sight of what the point in caring about these characters not wanting to or wanting to do these things in the first place was. Ultimately, Phury is just a completely misjudged sci-fi romance that potentially has something scattered at the very bottom levels of itself, something vaguely resembling a interesting romance, right? But it's just too bogged down in its own concept and reveals and its own, like, look how cool we're doing this thing is, to ever really make us care about the actual basics, the fundamentals of the film, which is the relationship between Paul Mescal and Saoirse Ronan. If you don't care about that, everything else falls flat. And for me, that is exactly what happened. I just didn't care. And when you don't care, a lot of the small things in this film start to feel like bigger annoyances. But what about you guys? Have you seen Pho? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. We'll have a little chat. Very interested to see if any of you guys thought very differently to me. I'd love to know if you love this film. Let me know in the comments. We'll have a little chat. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. The button is down there for that, as well as links to my socials and my letterboxd, all of that good stuff. I will see you guys very soon for some more thoughts on more films. But until next time, I'm going to go and scream into the ether that I just watched a Mescal and Saoirse Ronan led romance film that didn't make me feel anything. What in the heck is going on 2023?